This video is what is hired and non-owned auto liability coverage. It comes up a lot when I'm talking to my organizations that provide care to others, but it's relevant for every business. So I'm going to explain what it is and the situations where you may need it. Let's get into it. Hired and non-owned auto liability coverage are actually two separate things. Let's start with hired autos. These are vehicles rented for the business. So somebody is traveling for your organization. It can be an executive that's going out of state to visit another site or visit a client, or it can be a volunteer that's taking people on a missions trip across the country. And they're at the rental counter. They're getting ready to rent a vehicle that is going to be used for your organization. That's a hired vehicle. There's a couple of components you need to think about. First, when somebody rents for your organization, if you want it covered under your policy, you need to make sure they're renting in the name of the organization because the name on the contract has to match the name of the organization or the policy, the organization on the policy. Otherwise, you're going to have problems. I've had claims where the executive rents the vehicle in their personal name. Then they go to file a claim when there's an accident in that vehicle, and the company says, he rented it in his personal name. It's not covered. So you got to make sure the contract from the rental car company matches your insurance policy. Now, that said, there's a couple of things to think about. You're going to need to think about the liability insurance with that vehicle. And if it's rented in the name of the organization, your hired auto liability coverage should come first. You'll also want to think about physical damage coverage if they're in an accident and they need to pay for repairs to that vehicle. That's hired auto physical damage coverage. One thing to keep in mind, a lot of insurance companies will put a cap on how much they'll pay. So it may be $45,000, it may be $60,000, especially as the value of vehicles are growing. You should pause for a second and make sure that the type of vehicle that you're renting will be totally covered by the auto insurance policy that you have. Or you may want to consider buying insurance at the rental counter. Now, that's everything about hired vehicles. Now, what about non owned? What about employees and volunteers driving their personal vehicles on behalf of the business? It may be an office worker that runs to the bank for you. Or I work with a lot of nonprofits and organizations that provide care to people. This is a really big deal. It can be a literacy program that has volunteers driving to the local library to meet with people to teach them to read. It can be a home health agency that has their caregivers driving their personal vehicles to different people's homes. Non owned auto liability insurance protects the organization over and above the person's individual personal auto insurance. It always comes second for liability purposes, and it is not going to cover the person's car. There's no way to do it. You can't do it. So you need to make sure that the people who are driving on behalf of your organization know that their auto insurance is going to come first. You need to make sure that you're educating them about that. Second, if you're in an organization where this is a big part of your business, like a home health agency or a nonprofit that relies on volunteers driving their vehicles, you need to make sure that the volunteers or those individuals have at least a certain amount of liability insurance. Maybe it's 100,000. The common thing that insurance companies want to see is $100,000 of bodily injury per person and $300,000 per accident. What a lot of these companies will do is they'll say on the non-owned liability coverage that we'll provide this coverage, but we're not going to start paying until someone else pays $100,000. And that can either be the insurance policy, or if that policy is not in place, it's going to be you and your organization. So it's really important that that's going to be part of your business plan. You also need to have some type of compliance check-in and somebody that's going to be talking to the volunteers and collecting proof of auto insurance every time it renews and making sure that they carry the appropriate level of insurance. I hope this answered some questions that you've got. If you want to reach out to me, my contact information's in the description. If it was helpful, please hit like and subscribe. It helps other people like you find the content. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please go build something great.